Good day, everyone. As you can see on the screen, our topic is all about communication and globalization. The outline of our topic is all about globalization, word Englishes, and language culturally sensitive and bias-free. The learning objectives of our topic is to understand the implications of globalization on communication. 2. Impact of communication on globalization. 3. Explain the notion of word Englishes in the context of English being a global language. And 4. Use standard English and bias-free language in writing. The introduction of this lesson in communication and globalization will help us to know how we communicate globally by the means of sending and receiving information. Merely implies of the different societies in matters of cultures, politics, ethics, and ideas and other areas fundamental to human societies. In addition to the standards formed in academic and professional writing, and culturally sensitive when we are communicating with other people from the different cultures and discourse of communities. Communication and globalization. Globalization has affected us in numerous ways. Airfare has become cheaper, and one can travel internationally more than one could in the past. Many Filipinos have decided to work or live abroad, with some of them migrating to other countries. The free trades of goods and services all over the world has brought multinational companies and foreign investors to our shores. Because of all these factors, it is imperative to be aware of the differences between our culture and the rest of the world's culture. Because of the advent of the internet, the world seems to be shrinking continually. One can communicate internationally in a matter of seconds, whether one is sending an email, chatting in the social media, or sending a text message. It is a process of interaction and integration among people, companies, and governments of the different nations, a process driven by international trade and investment and aided by information technology. This process has effect on the environment, on culture, on political systems, on economic development and prosperity, and the human physical well-being in society around the world. World Englishes. The term World Englishes refers to the differences in the English language that emerge at its use in a various contexts across the world. Scholars of World Englishes identify the varieties of English used in different social-linguistic contexts, analyzing their history, backgrounds, function, and influence. Reading in the World Englishes. The Speak English. The story of a once obscure language and how it became the last word in global communication. Excerpted from the Chicago Tribune from the Story of English in the article of Macron et al. 1986. English did not exist when Julius Caesar landed in Britain nearly 2,000 years. English spoken by about a few people as currently speak. The emergence of English as a global phenomenon as a first or second language has recently inspired the idea that we should talk not of English but of many Englishes, especially in third world countries where English is no longer part of the colonial legacy. But all are equal in terms of varieties of English used in the world. However, not all are equal in prestige. For example, in society variety called African American English, where certain features such as singing, and walking are stigmatized, according to Yule 2010. African American are treated as abnormal by those dominant groups who are in charge of defining normal. Scholars like Kiwani Tupas and Rapti 2015 use the term unequal English to focus of the unequal ways and situation in which Englishes are arranged, configured, and contested. The two most well-known varieties of English are American English and British English. Those English speakers from the US and UK encountering the unfamiliar accents and words choices of conversation. Vocabulary. American English. Examples: apartment, college, vacation, schedule, airplane, mailbox, cookie, sweater, soccer, eraser. British English example: flat, university, holiday, timetable, aeroplane, postbox, biscuits, jumper, football, and rubber. Those are the examples of American English and British English. Example of the difference between American and British English. English has a particular rule as official language, medium of instruction, or even language of law and government. As I mentioned earlier, all of these world Englishes are equal in functionally, but not all prestige. These features include differences in spelling, punctuation, favor of words, expression, and sometimes grammatical construction. Philippine English as a unique idiosyncratic usage, as an instant comfort room, in Philippine term washroom, toilet, or lavatory. Matthew Sutherland writes about Philippines English from an Englishman's perspective, talk about the expressions. For a while, which does not exist outside of the Philippines. UK equivalent, he says, is just a second or just a moment, whereas in the typically expression will be on hold or hang on, quote in Aguilar 2004. Sutherland noted that every English-speaking nation has its own sets of English phrases and idiomatic. English is equally idiosyncratic in, say, India, Jamaica, Zimbabwe, or Singapore, in other words. There is no wrong way of speaking English as long as we understand each other. However, in terms of writing, the standard advocates the use of consistent spelling and punctuation system explaining such usage for the readers. In general, writers should avoid local idioms, expressions, and construction use words that will be clearly understood by English speakers from any region. David Crystal, 2003, begins the first chapter of the book English as a global language with the assertion that English is a global language. After he's giving the various examples to support statement that he questioned the assertion by asking, what does it mean to say that language is a global? He answered this question. He considered the implications of English having status because many users who speak different mother tongues. Culturally sensitive and bias-free language. Just as important as awareness of the existence of word Englishes is that of practicing culturally sensitivity. To write in culturally sensitive ways means to be aware that cultural differences and similarities between people exist, and they should not be assigned a positive or negative value via words and descriptions selected in writing. Academic and professional writings are characterized by bias-free language. Students, scholars, and professionals, and anyone wishing to maintain harmonious communicative relations should be careful in using words and phrases that do not discriminate against particular groups, whether in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, social class, age, and disability. The essential point is to communicate in a way that is respectful of diversity. Race and ethnicity. Racism is a form of discrimination against a person or persons of different race. In general, it is the best to avoid identifying people by race or ethnic groups. Race is an emotionally charged topic, so it is the best to tread carefully with the language used, and to refer to race. As Patricia Arinto, 2009, asserts in English for Professions, only if it is relevant to what you have to say. Gender and sexual orientation. Sexism refers to the prejudice and discrimination based on sex or gender. To be exclusive of all people in general references, one should favor gender-neutral words and phrases over gender-biased words, with man and woman, and job titles or descriptions. Social class. Class discrimination or classism is a form of prejudice against the people because of their social class. This term is negative not just because of the words that comprise it, but because of its connotations of danger because it can be unpredictable and without respect from authority. There are the examples from Philippines culture. as well as the information terms kanyo and chologs. They are both derogatory terms referring to class, now perhaps replaced by the terms of jejemon, as used in reference to an idiosyncratic spelling or writing style. Classism may also appear even more formal terminology. Sociologists, activists, Bastillion the right, a more sensitive vocabulary uses terms that precisely portray the actual circumstances of people with a class structure. Age. Ageism is a form of discrimination against other people because of their age, or assuming that other people are less physically, intellectually, or emotionally able than other age groups. The capabilities of younger people should not be underestimated on the basis of their age. Disabilities. Discrimination in this area often because of lack of understanding and awareness. Therefore, it is important to distinguish some terms that are mistakenly understood to be synonymous. The social implications of a disability, a condition or barrier imposed by society, the environment, or oneself. When referring to people with people, the focus should be on the person in that condition. Synthesis. These general guiding principles are helpful, but not always apt. It must be emphasized that research is necessary to become aware of trends and debates in these and other areas. One way also simply ask the concerned people what their preferred terms are. And that's the end of our topic. Thank you for listening.